In this video segment, I'm going to answer another question that came through the discussion forum within the Treeline Academy E-Scouting Elk MasterClass. The question comes out of the module, Mastering the Onyx Hunt Application and Platform. The question relates to how to import and export waypoints cross-platform between the various hunt applications and Google Earth Pro. The question was, when you import waypoints cross-platform and the icons switch to the default setting, will waypoint and route nodes transfer over or no? Also, since Onyx does not have folders, can you import a folder of waypoints and routes from Gaia to Onyx, or does it have to be individual exports? Again, this question actually has several questions within one. To answer this question, I'll show you one way that you can export data from Google Earth Pro and take it directly into Onyx Maps, taking into consideration waypoint icons, notes, and the other features that were mentioned in the question. Probably the best way to approach and answer this question was to just do a demonstration video. That's why I decided to create this video, to draw attention to some of the questions and how we answer those questions within the course. Let's start out in Google Earth Pro. Okay, here we are in Google Earth Pro, and one of the things that you're going to want to keep in mind when it comes to importing and exporting data and moving it all around, it really circles back to your data organization and how good or how poor of a job you've done with just setting up your Google Earth Pro over here in the Places pane. The way I do it is certainly not the way you have to do it. I created this folder for this lesson, and within that folder, if you open it up, you can see we've got a 1 mile radius, a couple of paths in here, and we've got some waypoints. I created kind of a nice mix because I wanted to export out a small sampling set of data that had various types and functions of waypoints so that we could see how well it imports in and out of the various hunt platforms. For this case, we're going to be limited to Onyx Hunt. So one of the first things you're going to want to do is to make sure that you have the folder that you're wanting to export, that you have all the data in that folder, which I've already done. So it's real simple. You're just going to click on this folder. You're either going to go to File and go to Save and go to My Places, or what I prefer to do is just to right click on it, go to Save My Places. I'm going to tell it to save to the desktop. I'm going to keep the folder the same for now. This is important to make sure that you switch it to KML. Some of the times it will default to KMZ. Onyx Hunt does not play well with KMZ files, and then you're going to hit save. And I've already got this on my folder, so I'm going to go ahead and replace it and just say yes. So once I export that data, that folder is now sitting on my desktop. It is now fully ready to import into Onyx Maps. Here we are in Onyx Maps. Now, for those of you that are really experienced and really know Onyx Maps in and out, you're like, what is going on with these circles or these radiuses around these waypoints? I'm going to talk about that here pretty quickly. But the first thing you're going to want to do, you're going to want to go over here and select My Content. It's going to pop up this side pane. And this is where you're going to want to do all of your importing and exporting for data, moving data in and moving data out. The one thing about Onyx, I do wish they had a folder structure where you could organize your data a little more effectively and efficiently within this pane. I'm not so sure that function is not coming soon, but for now, we have to work with what we've got. There is a lot of really great ways you can work with this data within this pane. With these settings up here in the top, you can really narrow your data down. If you're importing data on a particular day, I like to set it to new to old so that everything I'm doing on this day is within this little drop down. So if you want to work with your data and you want to delete a set of data without affecting any of your other data, this is a really good sort to use. So that's one way where if you made a mistake importing data and you wanted to real quickly just delete that entire group of data, assuming you didn't do anything else on that date, you could just do it really quickly. So when I expand this, these are all the waypoints that I imported in and added. See all these waypoints that are named waypoints? I added those today, and these ones that are named, these are the ones that I imported in. So this is basically my activity from 210. So to test our data, let's take a quick jump back to Google Earth Pro. So in Google Earth, when we open this folder, we have this 1 mile radius. You can see when you create a waypoint or a route or a path and you add notes or you add a description to it, they propagate right below it in this gray text here below. So you can see that we've got glassing spot number 1. I inserted a note as a test, and within this path, I also inserted a note. So let's jump back to Onyx and make make sure that these waypoints imported correctly, here we are back in Onyx. We're just going to expand this window. We're going to scroll down. Remember, we did the 1 mile radius, correct? So we're going to click on that. So that data did export correctly and come into Onyx from Google Earth Pro. So part of the question was, are notes exportable and importable? Yes, they are. So we'll close that just to double check. Click on my content again. Go down here to glassing spot number 1. It's hard to tell if there's a note attached in Onyx Hunt. It does not give you an indication. So we're going to click on the edit, and you can see again that this note is also included in the waypoint description or the notes tab. So you'll notice there's something very new and super exciting within Onyx. I'm going to do an entire tutorial on this coming up next, but today I'm just going to touch on it. So you can see now we have this range waypoint. We have this text below it that says create a range radius around this point. So I'm not going to do it to this waypoint because I want to show you something within that. So I'm going to close this window out. We're going to zoom out in our area here, and we're going to go back to my content. We're going to go back to one of these waypoints we created because I have those radiuses. So here we are looking at some sample waypoints. So these are all waypoints that I put in earlier today. I created a radius for each one of these waypoints. One of the really important things we do in the E-Scouting Masterclass is we talk about evaluating and identifying the zones of pressure. And one of the things we talk about is to create a radius around trailheads, dead-end roads, campgrounds, access points, anything that will give us an idea of where the pressure is going to come from. And we want to create a zone around that. In this example, we're going to start looking at the areas and focusing in on the areas that are outside of those zones. I quickly went in and created all of these waypoints. You can see these default icons. And I put a radius around each one of those waypoints of 2 miles, except for this one. I did a test. I just wanted to see how it looked, and I wanted to see what this interior circle would do. This is not in the Onyx help manual yet. I'm sure it's coming. This is a brand new feature. I actually had to call Onyx today when I saw this. I'm like, surely I did not miss that. How embarrassing is that? I'm in Onyx almost every day. And how could I have missed this feature? Because it's such a good feature for what I like to do. And so I called Onyx to verify, and they said, yeah, you're correct. This is brand new. And we talked about it a little, but I'm really excited about this feature. So now you can create these radiuses around certain waypoints, basically any waypoint of your choosing. So when you add a waypoint, this is where it gets a little confusing. So when you add a waypoint, it does not give you the option for the radius when you add it. So to add a radius, you're just going to click on the waypoint. Then you have this range waypoint option. So now we can just say add radius, do it by yards. You can do it by miles. So let's just say miles. I was doing 2 miles on the other ones, and we'll say apply. You can see we've got a different shade of the red at the 1 mile. What it does is it creates the outside radius of what you define, and then it halves that radius and creates this internal radius. This is the first time that you, in any of the hunt applications, that you're really able to put this really nice radius around a waypoint or a series of waypoints and start to create a picture like this. So again, I just wanted to point out this new tool. I'm not going to spend a lot more time here on it. I'm going to do an entire tutorial on it and how you might use it and apply it with your hunt planning. But I hope the answer to this question shows you how you can import, export, and move data around a little bit more efficiently. But just remember that when you export that data into these various hunt platforms, the icon will not travel with that data. Now the note data will, but you will have to readjust your custom icon set or however you're setting it up. If you haven't checked out treelineacademy.net, I hope you'll check it out and that you'll check out the E-Scouting Elk Masterclass.